The optical department at Sears is where America shops for contact lenses. Last year, we sold over 1 million contacts, the top brand names. Why? Well, look at these everyday low prices.
There's more for your life at Sears. By the CNC Warehouse Way.
No one puts more high technology into electronics than NEC. And as a leading NEC dealer, no one offers you lower prices than CNC. Low prices on big screen TVs, on stereo and digital HQ VCRs, on color receivers and monitors, and on high-tech compact disc players. You'll always get the guaranteed lowest prices on great NEC technology.
So come on in today by the CNC Warehouse Way.
The guys here say we're hooked on the soaps. We could care less. We only watch to see what they're wearing. Then we go right over to Payless, because we can get all those fashionable shoes, only at Payless we don't have to pay those fashionable prices. Hooked! That's ridiculous.
Well, guess I can change the channel then, huh?
Touch it and die, Steve.
Right now, textured dress pumps and the latest styles are on sale for just $12.99 or 2 pairs for $25. Payless Shoe Source. You could pay more, but why?
When I went back to work, I didn't expect to find the perfect job, but I did, as a Kelly Services temporary. Kelly helped upgrade my office skills, taught me new ones, and now I work when I want at jobs Kelly makes sure I can do. So if you'd like to get out of the house, meet new friends, and earn some extra money, look up Kelly Services in the white pages, because you know what you can find? Perfect job.
Kelly Services, the perfect job for you.
In 1786, James Madison planned one of America's most successful failures, a convention at Annapolis. Madison believed a strong central government was needed for our states to survive. We didn't have one. Many didn't want one. When Madison called for a national convention on commerce, it proved his point. The delegates to this Annapolis convention broke up in failure, but one thing was agreed: a better government was needed. From that failure, a call went out for a constitutional convention. It convened right here in Philadelphia 200 years ago, and it created a constitution for the people. I'm Jim Gardner.
Ooh, that's my feedback. We're going to go back live now to Penn's Landing and Action News reporter Chris Wagner aboard the Royal Viking Sky. And Chris, you're with some VIPs that can be very important people or very important politicians.
Well, I think you can look at it either way, Jim. I'm with Governor Casey of Pennsylvania and Governor Castle of Delaware. They've just come out of the VIP luncheon that they were attending here. Governor Casey, you were co-hosting it with the captain of this ship, and I suppose it can be said that you're hosting the entire event, being the governor of Pennsylvania. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's a great honor, and it's been a marvelous day. Governor Castle has been a very important part of this celebration, and it's a great day for Philadelphia, for Pennsylvania, and all of the country, and we're just very proud.
Do you have any sense of history about this?
Oh, of course. We go back before 1787 in our state, as you know. William Penn was a great advocate of equal rights for all people, and we're very proud of that tradition, and we've rededicated ourselves to that tradition here today.
Governor Castle, your state, of course, was the first to sign the Constitution, and you yourself were related to Benjamin Franklin himself. This must be a great day for you.
Well, it is absolutely a great day, Chris, and you really feel the sense of history. And I think just as importantly, you feel the sense of renewal, how this great country in 200 years has been able to continue to achieve all the good things, to take all the immigrants and to make sure they become good Americans and productive Americans. And I just think that not just Benjamin Franklin, but all the signers would be so proud to be here today. I wish they could be here to join us.
You know, when they were planning this event initially a long time ago, they were saying that one of the difficult parts of celebrating the Constitution is that it's a cerebral thing, and that it might be difficult to get the message of the Constitution across to people in a way that will make them sit up and take notice. How do you think that has played out over this year?
Oh, it's come to life. People really feel the meaning of the document and the guarantees that are there for all of us. And I think it's to the credit of the Willard Rouse and the committee that put together this observance that they've made it live. That parade today was just a kaleidoscopic view of America, and it gave me a sense of great pride to be an American, and I'm sure everybody has that sense of patriotic identification with this event.
What do you think the founding fathers would think of all these people? I mean, there were only 40,000 people in Philadelphia back when the Constitution was signed. There are about, Lord knows how many 100,000 people right behind us now.
Well, I think they would think it's wonderful. And, you know, I think they would even be a little surprised that what they created 200 years ago would still be alive today. You know, the Constitution really has not changed a great deal. And I think that's what this has really shown. And I think credit really must be paid to Governor Casey and the people of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. They have done a wonderful job of doing what Governor Casey said. They have brought the Constitution to life. And I think that school children and people throughout this country now better understand it than they did a year ago. And we hope, as the first state to ratify the Constitution on December 7th, to add the icing to that cake, if you will, and to make sure that people understand what happened in each of the original 13 colonies when we also ratified.
All right, Governor Castle, Governor Casey, thank you both very much for joining us. Have a great day the rest of the day. And we will anticipate having a great day the rest of the day, but for now, I'm going to send it back to you, Jim.
Chris, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. And we'll continue our coverage in just a minute.
Buy a Eureka vacuum cleaner now and get our exclusive double buyer protection. It's protection so sweet, it'll sweep you off your feet. Get a full extra year's coverage. Plus, great savings on all these hard-working Eureka vacuums, but only for a limited time. Get Eureka's double buyer protection and get swept off your feet today. Available at these locations.
Now's the time to take advantage of your Dodge dealer's factory-authorized clearance sale. Because right now, you can get up to $1,000 cash back on all 87 Dodge pickups, Raiders, and Ram Chargers. Plus, on all 87 Dodge Dakotas, get 1.9% financing or up to $1,000 cash back. And don't forget, every U.S.-built Dodge truck is backed by our 770 protection plan. See your Dodge dealer today for high cash back on all 87 Dodge pickups. The factory-authorized clearance sale, right now at your Dodge dealer.
Driftway knows what you want. There is a place that knows exactly what you need. In every way, in every single brand. And every aisle is filled with promises we keep in bringing you the very best we can. You can take for granted how dependability. Driftway knows what you want.
Dreyfus meets with his advisors. As I understand it, our strategic aggressive fund can seek profits in both up and down markets.
Excellent. Bravo. I disagree. Using sophisticated trading and hedging techniques, we aim to pursue and protect profits worldwide. Excellent. Can't see it.
Strategic is the next step forward in mutual funds.
Don't like it.
Oh, now I understand. I love it. Dreyfus Strategic for today's markets.
The fact is, Philadelphia does not have a monopoly on the constitutional celebration today. There are some activities going on down at the Jersey Shore, Atlantic City, New Jersey, where our New Jersey correspondent Jeff Barnes is now live. Jeff?
Well, Jim, the spirit of the Constitution is alive and well here in Atlantic City. We're at Brighton Park, better known as Park Place, for those of you familiar with Atlantic City, as we take a look at the focal point of the ceremonies about to take place in just a few minutes here in Brighton Park. The ceremony will last about an hour, and in that time, a lot is happening. There's a ceremonial reenactment of the signing of the Constitution by citizens of the 13 original states. They are represented by members of the state delegations attending the Miss America pageant. At the time of the signing, all church bells in Atlantic City will be ringing, and the Air National Guard will conduct a flyby of their F-106 aircraft. Now, Kelly Cash, Miss America 1987, will give a reading of the American Testament. That's a patriotic reading, often referred to as the sacred papers of our country. Now, before the Brighton Park ceremony, there was a very timely event taking place in front of Atlantic City City Hall about 3 hours ago. Timely because it put our Constitution to work. It began with a formal flag-raising ceremony in front of City Hall. Formal because it is the 200th anniversary of our Constitution, and formal because it was the day of rebirth for the select few in this crowd. There are 100 select people representing 32 nations around the world. Today, they were sworn in as U.S. citizens, seeking a new life and absolute freedom, and giving thanks to the document that made it all possible. 91-year-old Ludmila Alikin is the oldest of this group. Before the ceremonies, with the help of a translator, she told me how fulfilling it is knowing she'll spend the rest of her life in America after coming over here from the Soviet Union.
They feel really a long time American, that they can do and speak and say whatever they feel like, and they won't be prosecuted for a little trivial mistake.
The youngest of this group is 10-year-old Joseph Michael Worley from the Philippines. He already has dreams that he intends to make a reality. What do you aspire to do? What are you going to try to do, Joseph?
Tried to be an actor on television. Tried to get a lot of money.
Does it feel good to have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do, especially at your age, at age 10 years? You have your whole life ahead of you.
Yes. It felt good being an American citizen.
Today's one-hour ceremony was attended by local dignitaries, including Atlantic City Mayor James Usry and Atlantic County State Senator William Gormley. Both called this celebration a true testament to the freedom we all share as Americans, and at times take for granted.
Depicts the difference in the cultures, how important it is to be here in the United States, and for people in the United States to recognize how important the Constitution is and how important the freedom and their liberties are.
You see it so often when people come from other countries, how hard they work when they get to America, how excited they are to be able to attend schools in America, how excited they are to be able to have job opportunities that they would never have anywhere else. So they're proud, and they are a reminder to us that we have something special.
The Atlantic City High School Marching Band, they led a parade that came into Brighton Park about 2 hours ago. Now, as I said before, the ceremony will last about an hour. After that, a concert will be held on the boardwalk in front of Convention Hall. That'll be by the 26th U.S. Army Band from Fort Hamilton, New York. And as I said before, that'll be at 5:30 tonight. We'll be going live from there, incidentally, as the all-day celebration honoring our Constitution continues. I'm Jeff Barnes, live on the Action Cam from Brighton Park in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We've just heard from New Jersey. The state of Delaware was doing its part today to participate in this 200th birthday celebration. Wilmington Mayor Dan Frawley was clearly in the spirit of things as he arrived in downtown Wilmington in a horse-drawn carriage dressed as George Washington.
And I'm en route to Mount Vernon. Unfortunately, I nearly lost my carriage here crossing the Christina River.
Mayor Frawley was joining Delawareans throughout the state, taking part in a giant public signing. They were signing documents reaffirming Delaware's support for the Constitution. Of course, Delaware was the first state to ratify the Constitution. Those documents will be saved so that historians will know who took part in today's events as well. Now, Lauren Wilson explains how Delaware got to be the first state to ratify, or I should say to sign the Constitution, and why it's still a source of local pride 200 years later.
Delaware, the first state. Every day, in every way, Delawareans drive the message home.
I think we have to maintain our image as the first state. That's a wonderful thing, and besides, it's the only thing we've really got.
Not really. Claudia Bushman, head of the state's Heritage Commission, says Delaware has a wealth of history, too. It began when these 5 men were selected to go to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. Who's the mystery man?
The 5th gentleman, Mr. Jacob Broom, never had his picture painted, which shows you if you ever think you're going to be famous, you need to have your portrait made.
Delaware's 5 delegates did get the picture in Philadelphia. Larger states were grappling for power, but
the Delaware delegates went to Philadelphia with a specific agenda. They wanted to protect the rights of the small states. They wanted to protect their borders so they would not be swallowed up, and they wanted an equal voice.
Delaware credits native son John Dickinson with getting smaller states that equal voice by calling for proportional representation in the House and equal representation in the Senate. That plan's known today as the Great Compromise. Connecticut's Roger Sherman, who chaired the committee which presented the idea at the convention, gets the official credit in the history books. But here at the Delaware Historical Society, folks say John Dickinson's notes show it was all his idea. Either way, the concept was accepted, and when the Constitution was finally ironed out, Delaware's delegates proudly signed on. Sort of.
John Dickinson was too ill to get to Philadelphia, so his friend George Reed actually signed the document for him. His signature's on there, but it's actually his name, not his own signature.
When Delaware's delegates got back from Philadelphia, they joined a recovered John Dickinson right here on this block in Dover, Delaware. 30 men from all over the state also gathered at this building that used to be called Battel's Tavern, where over food and drink, all 30 agreed unanimously to accept the new Constitution. For 5 days, Delaware was the only state to do so, and that's why it's proclaimed the first state. I'm Lauren Wilson, Channel 6 Action News in Dover.
And I said it correctly the first time, Delaware the first state to ratify the Constitution. We will continue our coverage of Constitution Day in just a moment.
Me and my
Sludge-O-Matic would like to tell you about a carpet treated with amazing new Scotch-Guard stain release. Why? Because it's easy to stain a carpet. It's just this easy! Of course, when your carpet's protected with Scotch-Guard stain release, cleanup is just this easy. And how do you get a carpet protected with new Scotch-Guard stain release? It's just this easy.
Dad, listen, we were in a car accident. Julie's hurt pretty bad. She's with the doctors now. He's drunk. He made a left turn right in front of us, Dad. Yes, I got witnesses. I gave a police report. I'll need help with Julie's medical bills. The car's totaled. Something doesn't sound right. The guy that hit us told me to call his insurance agent. Sure, I know Jacoby and Myers. I'll call them first. I'll do it right away.
When Jeff came to Jacoby and Myers, we told him that we'd take care of contacting insurance companies, doctors, everything, and that there's no fee until the case is settled.
Thanks, Dad. That helps a lot.
A lot of our parents are living on fixed incomes now, so they're pretty careful with their money. Unfortunately, proper medical care is sometimes sacrificed just to save a buck. But that argument won't wash anymore if your mom or dad has a cataract, because the Cataract Institute will remove it with no cost to them. Even the transportation's provided. Now, let them try to talk their way out of that one.
For more information, call the Cataract Institute of Pennsylvania at 564-1111.
Don't miss the movie hits audiences are raving about. First, the #1 motion picture in America, Stakeout.
I thought it was a great movie.
It's got it all.
We laughed hard and we laughed good.
Richard Dreyfuss, Emilio Estevez, Stakeout, rated R. Playing separately, the new comedy smash, Can't Buy Me Love.
I've gone 8 movies and this is the best I've seen this summer. Awesome.
Great, how impressive.
Can't Buy Me Love, rated PG-13. And Stakeout, both playing separately at theaters everywhere.
We will soon be going back live to the Great American Picnic at Penn's Landing, but one question, how do you feed the hundreds of thousands of people who are going to be going there over the next 4 days? Harry Martin found out how.
It's been billed as a huge picnic at Penn's Landing, and it will serve around 500,000 people over the next 4 days. While picnics were not unusual for the men who cooked up the Constitution, some of the food we serve today may have confounded the Founding Fathers. Here at the Federal Baking Company in South Philadelphia, huge ovens will crank out over 60,000 soft pretzels for the Bicentennial picnickers.
We've been a part of Philadelphia for over 60 years, and it's nice to be thought of when it comes to an important occasion like this.
And while the framers of the Constitution did eat ice cream, this cold confection, called the Choco Taco, may have been a little surprising to them.
And I think they would like it, they would enjoy it.
Corn on the cob was a picnicker's staple in colonial times. Popcorn is a more recent addition to the menu. Over the next 4 days, partiers will chow down on 5,000 pounds of popcorn.
They would have loved it because popcorn is all American. And everything that we have here is grown in America, made in America, and sold in America.
When our Founding Fathers were ready to dine, one of their favorite places to eat was here at the City Tavern. They'd have their big meal between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. And when we say big meal, we really mean it, because once you hear the menu, you'll understand why so many of our Founding Fathers were, well, rather portly. Now, this is just a small portion of what they would eat. They would start out with a hearty soup, maybe a fish chowder. And then they'd move on to chicken, fish, beef. They'd have several vegetables, lots of breads, several different kinds of desserts, and they would wash it all down, each with a pint of Madeira, a pint of claret, and a pint of beer. The water in Philadelphia back in those days wasn't that great, and that's the reason that they drank so much alcohol. Or at least that's what they claim. At the Great American Picnic, there will be no alcohol, but Coke hopes to sell lots of its product and other soft drinks. The exact amount is highly classified by Coke, but 12,000 gallons may be a safe estimate. The question still remains, though, would Ben Franklin and George Washington catch the wave? Would they think Coke was the real thing?
Well, historically, Coke has been acknowledged as a tonic, and I'm sure that the Founding Fathers would have found themselves very refreshed at those long meetings they had back then.
Now, back then, you'd never find tomato ketchup at a picnic. The Founding Fathers thought that tomatoes were poisonous. Kraft Food Services will supply the ketchup, the mustard, the relish, all the condiments, and supply the hamburgers and hot dogs, around 250,000 of them. Art Craig of Canteen Corporation will be responsible for pulling all the food together in one place, making sure that it's all prepared properly and that it's all fresh.
Most of the products that we have to be concerned about are being produced within 2 days of the function itself.
So everything seems to be in place for the great American picnic, an American institution as old as the Constitution itself. Make sure, though, that you bring your appetite. And, oh yes, bring money, because the American Free Enterprise System will also be at work. Harry Martin, Channel 6, Action News.
All right, that's Harry on tape. Now we're with Harry live, and I was just going to say, Harry, I assumed you were going to be munching on something, and of course you are.
Absolutely. I am munching on one of these hot dogs, and with me is Richard Gillis. Now, Richard, a lot of people don't know this, but Richard Gillis is a chef in his own right. He is one of the hot dog vendors, one of the many hot dog vendors serving up these delicacies. Richard, I want you to tell us some of the secrets behind making a good hot dog. What's the first thing you do?
First thing we do, we take some natural Perrier sparkling water, put it in the containers that we cook it in, turn up the flame, put the hot dogs in for about anywhere from 15 minutes to about 6 hours. Right. So at least they're a light shade of green, I'd say.
I see. So timing is very important.
Yeah, the timing is very good. You know, people like to have their hot dogs hot. They'll complain, they'll come back, you know. But, you know, we give them the best thing we can give them.
What about the rolls? Because I noticed the rolls are really fresh.
Yeah, well, we have them in our bags, big crates stacked up behind our thing. We bring them out, you know, toss them out, open them up, stick the hot dogs in, wrap them up in a little piece of wax paper.
Now, you're quite the good chef. I mean, you've gone to correspondence school?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. I was there for about, I think since I was about 2.
Until you're about 2?
Yeah.
So then you spent, what, 5-10 minutes in school, I guess?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, these are excellent hot dogs, by the way. And Richard, thank you for playing along with us, because that's not at all true. The hot dogs are great down here, and they're all fresh. We do have to emphasize that they're all nice and fresh, because the canteen people have taken great pride in making sure that the products that they do sell here is fresh. As far as the green hot dogs are concerned, well, maybe on St. Patrick's Day, but not today, not at We the People 200 celebration. Thank you very much, Richard. Now, let's check in with Chris Wagner. She is on the Royal Viking Sky behind me, and she has a real, honest-to-goodness chef with her.
Yes, I do, Harry. I'm live, as you can see, and the man with the big hat is the chef that he looks like he is. His name is Fritz Mariaker. He is the chef for the Royal Viking Sky. And, you know, you were eating hot dogs, Harry. Back when the Constitution was written, the elite, even back then, sometimes ate slightly different food than the rank-and-file Joe Blow American, and that is also the case today. Fritz here has made the luncheon for the VIP luncheon that all the celebrities and VIPs and diplomatic corps and governors have just finished eating. And what did you make for them? Not hot dogs.
Well, of course, we didn't serve them hot dogs. And we start off the day with a corn chowder served in a pumpkin marmite. Then we had a nice fish, fresh stripped sea bass, which arrived this morning by 6 o'clock. Nice fillet. Then we went to a New England typical sherbet, which we call apple cider sherbet. Then we went to the main course, of course, which is a turkey, because it's Constitution and one of American favorite dishes anyway. We served in a Pennsylvania red cabbage with honey glazed sweet potatoes and some French string beans.
All right, it was quite a fancy luncheon, wasn't it?
Well, I could say so.
Okay, thank you very much, Fritz. And that's it on the food situation, Jim. Fritz, if I can ask you to come over here. We have a new guest that has just walked in here. Jesse Jackson, how are you doing? I didn't know you were going to be on board today.
Well, it's a great day to be in Philadelphia. And there's a great sense that it's another milestone in America's victorious march toward being a more perfect union. As I travel around the country and think about how unstable so many governments are, the stability of our government is the envy of the world. This Constitution established the framework. Of course, the Bill of Rights was the heartbeat of it, because it was not the frame that is endured, but the Bill of Rights is endured. That's the living aspect of it. The Bill of Rights is what gave the rights to women and blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans and the working people. So we have much to celebrate today.
I know that you also believe we have farther to go, that we have not fully lived out the Constitution.
Well, in a real sense, the great flaw of the original Constitution was its view on race, seeing blacks and Native Americans as 3/5 human beings was such an ungodly act, but it did not count women at all in the real sense. It was for property owners They, of course, were threatened not by a small band of property owners, but by multinational corporations. And we must, of course, have an interpretation that protects us. You know, we've lost 38 million jobs since 1973. What does it mean when General Electric makes $6 billion between 81 and 83, pay no taxes and get a tax break beyond all of that? And we're losing our jobs by the tens of thousands. But because the document lives, we can finally protect ourselves through legislation or through judicial judgment.
Do you think that there's more to celebrate here or more distance to go on a day like this?
Well, it's both celebration and reflection. We reflect upon the incompleteness of it. On the other hand, there'll be an even greater celebration perhaps in 4 years when the Bill of Rights is celebrated. You know, as I listen to the arguments to and fro, what finally makes me appreciate the character of the men struggling was a statement by Thomas Jefferson, who of course owned slaves and had concubines and was a part of this whole setup. But he said that when he looked at the institution of slavery on the one hand and realized that God was a just God on the other hand, he shuddered for the country. And it's precise that sense of fear of God, that sense of trembling, that inexorable step toward democracy that has made this Constitution survive. We certainly today have an obligation, as we fight to keep the document living, to stop a Judge Bork, for example, who would undercut many of the humane aspects that have come into our lives in the last 25 years. He would not have supported the 54 Supreme Court decision. He would not have supported the Public Accommodations Bill, the Voting Rights Act, women's rights, the rights of workers. And so even this day, we are challenged to protect this Constitution by having justices, the sensitive, and justices that care for the common people.
Do you get a kick out of days like this, or is this simply another day of campaigning, another stop along your long road?
No, there's a sense of history here. There's a sense of joy. Something is happening. In many ways, it is a victory. I mean, no nation on earth has a 200-year-old Constitution that has endured. And so that is worth celebrating all by itself. When you think that a guy like Wilson Goode, his heritage was not even up for human consideration 200 years ago, and now he's mayor. I'm an African American, and today lead the Democratic nominees for head of our party. A Bill Gray from this city, who is chairman of the Budget Committee. It shows apparently that inherent in that Constitution and its amendments in the Bill of Rights was tremendous possibility, perhaps possibility unlike any place else in the world.
Do you see us going forward? You're sort of basing everything you're saying on the Bill of Rights. Do you see us going forward now, or do you see us going backwards?
Well, in a real sense, you have to base it on the Bill of Rights, because the first group, they were more reacting to King George and oppressive government than they were the particulars of human rights. I mean, when you think that they did not protect women explicitly, or that blacks and Native Americans referred to as 3/5 human, obviously there were some missing dimensions in the details of their thought. But the Bill of Rights created content and character for the frame, because that really has endured. The referring to blacks as 3/5 human, that didn't last. Only for property owners, that didn't last. Not taking women into account, that didn't last. But these basic rights, equal protection under the law for every human being, that has lasted. That has enduring, ethical, universal quality.
Okay, Reverend Jesse Jackson, thank you very much for stopping by and talking with us for a few minutes today. Bye-bye.
Good to see you.
All right, Jim, back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And Reverend Jackson alluded to something that I think we should make quite clear and put into context. We are today celebrating the 200th birthday of the signing of the Constitution. And it was the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that came 4 years later. The Constitution itself...
1991.
I said 17? What did I say?
I know my anniversaries, Jim.
It was the Constitution of the United States that set up our present system of government with its separation of powers. The first 10 amendments in 1791, the first attempt to protect minorities and to protect individuals against that government. And we will be celebrating that 4 years later, as the Reverend Jesse Jackson so eloquently said just a few moments ago. We will continue our coverage of Constitution Day in Philadelphia in just a moment.